Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the podcast where we discuss all things USMNT y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. Joining me once again, my co-host Tocayos, Adrian. Adrian, what's good, man? How are you, bro?
Hey, how's it going, dude? Over here, just watching the end of Tigres against Toluca. Decent match for Pauno. I'm still not a Pauno lover. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird
Big
season
win.
for Tigres. Yeah, big win, but weird season for Tigres.
Yeah, very weird season. Somehow second place, hasn't been playing all that convincingly, but got a big result against second place Toluca that now takes Tigres to second place with one jornada left. But not here to talk about Tigres necessarily, though we will be mentioning some of their players. Adrian, Javier, Vascoaguirre's roster announcement was made earlier this week for the November friendlies. And yeah, man, we're here to discuss that. I think there are some players that come back to this roster that you'd expect, some that, are omitted here, and just some WTFs that you're just wondering, scratching your head, why is this here? So we're here to discuss all that. Adrian, why don't you give us at least like convocados, the called up players for this FIFA window?
Alrighty, let's do it. We have goalkeepers, Luis Malagón from América, Raúl Rangel, El Tala Rangel from Chivas, and Guillermo Ochoa from ABS Futbol in Portugal. Defenders, we have Cesar Montes from CSKA Moscow, although it's not CSKA Moscow, it's Lokomotiv Moscow, my bad. Johan Vázquez from Genoa, Jorge Sánchez, Cruz Azul, Chiquete Orozco from Chivas, Israel Reyes from América, Jesús Gallardo from Toluca, Rodrigo Huescas, Copenhagen, and Jesús Angulo from Tigres. In the midfield, we have Edsonalvarez, El Machín from West Ham, Orbelín Pineda from AEK Athens, Luis Romo Cruz Azul, Carlos Rodríguez Cruz Azul, Eric Lira Cruz Azul, Alexis Gutiérrez Cruz Azul, and Luis Chávez from Dinamo Moscow. And up top, we have Alexis Vega from Toluca, Raúl Jiménez from Fulham, César Huerta, Chino Huerta from Pumas, Guillermo Martínez from Pumas, Diego Lainez from Tigres, Ociel Herrera from Tigres, Ángel Sepúlveda from Cruz Azul, Julián Quiñones from Alcadicilla, and Henry Martin from América. I probably butcher Julián Quiñones' team, but that's
he probably butchers it himself.
Yeah. 6 players from Cruz Azul, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, the first thing, if you're just looking at this roster and looking at, especially the mediocampistas, the midfielders here, you just see predominantly Cruz Azul players, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously we know why. Cruz Azul having a fantastic tournament, La Apertura and ligamx, and it just goes to show here where so many of their players are here. Adrian, looking at this roster compared to last month's roster for Aguirre, I think last month we praised him for having a lot of youngsters, giving the chance to a lot of new players. We saw Obed Vargas last month. Brian Gonzalez. We saw Germán Berterame. We saw, if we're looking at it like non-youngsters, right? We saw Cordova come back, and just a lot of changes now between this roster and the last roster. I think this is more of a roster of, players who some are coming back in form, like Henry Martin. Some are currently very in form, the Cruz Azul players, which we mentioned. And, then you see just some of the mainstays like Guillermo Ochoa coming back, right?
Yeah.
For you, man, who are your important comeback/return players here, or at least the most notable?
Yeah, there's 3 names on the list of comebacks or returns, right? The first one has to be Jesus Gallardo. I think we made countless episodes here in PPG discussing the left back position for Mexico, looking at Jesus Gallardo, and trying to make sense as to why for the last 10 years he has been the go-to choice for Mexico in that position. And yet again, we find his name here. Why is he a notable comeback? Well, it's because throughout this short tenure of El Vascoaguirre, he has struggled to find a consistent left back, which we have seen Jesus Angulo from Tigres, which you and I have pledged before or asked for him to be featured more often. And I think he was going to continue to be featured for El Vasco, given that Vasco plays more defensively and Angulo is a defensive left back. But I believe, all things considered, Gallardo is having a more than a decent season with Toluca, has encountered his form once
just
again.
Scored against Tigres today.
Exactly. So with that, he has 3 goals and 3 assists throughout the entire Apertura 2024. So, is he arguably the best left back that Mexico has? Maybe, with a huge asterisk, right? But I guess we understand why he's getting a comeback. Not only for his attacking endeavors, but also that he can be an option. He can provide depth on other areas that El Vasco doesn't really have, right? If he needs a left wing, he can play as a left wing. If he needs a left wing back, he can play as a left wing back, or he can play as a left back, right? So he's a plurifunctional player.
And not only that, he's getting these call ups and these looks. Again, like I say, multifunctional player can be played in different positions, but just because of the lack of depth in that position to
Yeah,
begin with,
yeah.
which we made a whole video a month ago about discussing that
Mhm.
lack of depth in the left back position.
And
Um,
and shall we say R.I.P. Arteaga? Because he hasn't been featured for El Vasco at
yeah,
all. Yeah.
that which is odd to say the least, because he's the one that took Gallardo's spot in Monterrey,
Yeah.
and younger plays for
Mhm.
Monterrey, who's playing great football. Well, I guess Toluca's playing great football as well. But yeah, definitely an interesting case there. Maybe one where we make a video kind of analyzing that whole situation for Arteaga and why that can be. But I think another comeback that we kind of have to highlight here that wasn't featured last month due to injuries. Luis Chavez, the player for Dynamo Moscow in Russia, who's been a vital player for them this season. I think he played all minutes available for the last 2 matches, or most of
Yeah.
those minutes, and
Mhm.
he's played most of the matches that he's been healthy for Dynamo Moscow this season.
Yeah.
So having him back in the midfield there is a huge plus for Vascoaguirre, and I think I mean that he's one of the more or less guaranteed starters for this selección mexicana. So important to have him back.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a very notable comeback return for Mexico, not only because of how much Mexico plays better with him rather than without him, but it's nice to have someone who can also provide that leadership aspect of things, right? You have Edsonalvarez and some other players who are the main or the go-to leaders of the crew, but I think Luis Chavez provides at least some sort of additional experience when it comes to having names like Alexis Gutierrez, Eric Lira, and other players who haven't been featured that much with Mexico over the last at least over the last World Cup cycle.
Right. And talking to somebody that has featured didn't feature, my fault, correcting myself here, didn't feature for the last match for Mexico last window, Julian Quiñones, someone that's very hard to follow out there on the other side of the world. But, from our stats here, he has 4 goals, 3 assists in 7 matches. And I think we discussed, Adrian, previously how him moving to that league was going to affect his convocatoria for eltri. Will he be still called up? Was that going to slowly diminish his call ups? Was Vasco going to give the opportunity to other players in that position? I think him playing in the form that he's at, being called up again, and just giving Vasco that different outlet is very important for Vasco moving forward here, especially having an in-form Henry Martin, having Julian Quiñones and Henry
Yeah.
Martin who know each other, have played together for so long. Can only benefit here for La Selección.
Yeah, and this is a very good point because I think we both agree that playing on that side of the world, it's a challenge just because of the amount of spotlight that you get, right? That's his biggest complication right now. It isn't the fact that he's not playing. It isn't the fact that he's not playing well. It is just the sheer matter of he plays at a very different time zone and on a very unpopular league, to say the least, right? And I say unpopular because it isn't like everyone's watching the freaking Saudi Pro League, right?
Right.
Only the hardcore soccer fans, I would say, probably watch it. And even those, they probably watch the TikTok highlights or whatever. But no, I think that I never questioned the fact that he was going to get called up. It was just a matter of time for him to get called up. And I think El Vasco, the fact that he called Berterame and other players with similar characteristics was to find a solution to say like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to worry about following your lead in that side of the world or that part of that on that specific league. If I can find someone who can do the same job that you do, because Berterame offers a similar outlet as Julian Quiñones, which is
Right.
a lot of pressure, a lot of physicality, also can perform as a regular 9 striker or as a winger, just like Julian Quiñones does.
Yes, sir. So those are our 3 notable comebacks for this jornada, or this international break here for El Tri. Let's get into surprises. There's a couple here that we want to mention, and for those of you who don't remember, or just are wondering, scratching your head, where is Santiago Jimenez, the forward? Remember, guys, he's out for at least 3 to 4 months, so he probably won't see game time till the end of the, if to the beginning of 2025.
Yep.
But start out with some surprises here. Ángel Sepúlveda, 8 goals in La Liga this year. Best hot, probably the informed striker at the moment. For Cruz Azul there. Surprised in that he's getting this call up now. Surprised that it didn't come sooner, or just a good surprise overall.
I think it's a mixed bag, man. Is it a good surprise overall? I don't know. It depends on how you looked at it, right? This is a 33-year-old player,
right,
who's getting called up. So on that side, that's I guess that's the bad portion of the mixed bag of surprise that Angel Sepulveda is. The neutral portion of this is that, well, this is finally a Mexican striker who has been shining over the last 5 years, right? And I say shining because he was perhaps one of the most notable Mexican strikers in Liga MX while he was playing for Querétaro, right? He was playing for a small side in Mexico, but he was still scoring. He was still making a name for himself as a Mexican striker in a team that has plenty of foreigners come in and come out. The fact that he got a big move to Cruz Azul later in his career, it just goes to show that he was actually on the up and coming. And I think this is the season where he is peaking, right? And so that will be the neutral side of the bag. The good surprise is that I finally see, him getting a reward for all the hard effort. So I think it's a good surprise for him, specifically individually for him. Is it a good surprise for Mexican fans? It depends on, I guess, who you go for and how you like to see the glass.
Hey, I guess for Mexico strikers, 33 and 34 are the new 23 and 24.
I guess
Just
so.
said Raul Jimenez.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I guess deserved call up for what he's doing with Cruz Azul right now. I guess age is just a number for these players because I mean, look at Henry Martin as well. But yeah, a good surprise there for Sepulveda. Another surprise here, another Cruz Azul player, Alexis Gutierrez, 2 goals, 3 assists. A very pivotal player for this interesting and very talented Cruz Azul team. This is a weird option, kind of surprise question mark as to where does he fit in on this squad?
Yeah.
There's so many options in that position. There's a lot of players that can play this. A lot of players ahead of him. Is this just a depth piece at this point for Javier Aguirre?
Yeah, the core of this roster tells me that Javier Aguirre is still trying to find rotation players, right, or trying to find the pieces that he's missing on the either set 11 starting players that he has or the 18 roster that he already has, right? Alexis Gutierrez to me seems to be a call for I need to plug a hole, and he seems to fit that hole, right? And I mean in the sense of Eric Sanchez, right? El Chiquito Sanchez, who plays a similar role as Alexis Gutierrez, is having an abysmal season with America. Ever since he joined America, hasn't been the same. And so I think this is a long shot of, I say long shot, looking at 2026 for Javier Vascoaguirre to find a player that can plug that specific absence of talent in Mexico. I think you and I know that there's some names ahead of him on the pecking order, but it is an interesting surprise because he's technically not too old. He's 24 years of age. He plays regularly for Cruz Azul. I think 15 matches out of the 16 that we've seen so far. And that's not a small accomplishment on a league that features a lot of foreign players and in a team that is predominant, like the majority of their foreign talent lays at the front. So I think it's an interesting surprise.
Yeah, surprised that all the surprises here that we have listed are all Cruz Azul players, right? The next one we have here is Eric Lira, a player who was called up last time, didn't see any action. Also a 24-year-old player who's also been very critical for Cruz Azul's performance this year, having played in all 14 matches, 1,133 minutes across all those 14 games. Is this... this is a question where he's been reliable for Cruz Azul, plays kind of in that back row, right center back or holding midfielder, center defensive mid, the position that you would kind of think of an Edsonalvarez, or Cesar Montes type deal, right? He could kind of float in that area. Is it time to start looking at him as a very critical piece for Vasco Aguirre, at least rotational wise?
I think so, man. I think so, and we have discussed this in the past. And it's a critical aspect that Mexico needs to address, because as much as we say that Mexico has plenty of central midfielders, they don't have enough central defensive midfielders. And Eric Lira can be that outlet for not only a replacement for Edsonalvarez, but also a good second option for when needed. Right, in the event, let's say that you have Cesar Montes or Johan Vasquez getting injured, or if you want to play a deep five with Edsonalvarez, you can also rely on Eric Lira to be your CDM on that specific role. And again, he provides that additional outlet of being a plurifunctional player or multifunctional player, in the sense that he can play as a center back, he can be a good CDM. So I think more than anything for Eric Lira, he needs to understand that he's going to be a second role player, right? He's the reason why he's getting called up is because he's doing good things with Cruz Azul. Hopefully, we get to see him go somewhere else outside of Mexico, but he is not going to take Edsonalvarez's position. I think just El Vasco is trying to brace for a impending or God for the unavoidable time where either Edsonalvarez is not able to get called up either for injury or just overworked.
Which we saw happen.
Yeah,
It's not out of the
exactly.
question. And you mentioned Eric Lira here being one that kind of is going to be that role player. I think these three surprise players, while they're good surprises, getting more depth pieces and seeing and giving opportunity to new players, especially players that are playing very well for their club. All these three players are in that same situation where they're more or less going to be role players. They're playing behind,
Yeah.
If you look at Sepulveda, he's behind, a lot of strikers up there, right? A lot of forwards.
Yeah.
Eric Lira as well, as we discussed, and Alexis Gutierrez. A lot of players ahead of them, but could be good role pieces. And I know we'll discuss in our preview video of the match what we think our lineup prediction will be, but it'll be interesting to see that if he's bringing these Cruz Azul players and these players that are role players on this team, is he going to give them a chance to play, or is he just going to go with old reliable and play the players we know?
And it's an odd time to try to. Oh, I say odd because this isn't a regular FIFA friendly. This is a quarterfinals of Nations League, right? So he needs to perform. He cannot afford to lose this match. So the fact that he's calling them up, I think most likely one of them might see some minutes depending on the situation, but I wouldn't be surprised if none of them have any minutes.
We just see the old faithful.
Yeah, exactly.
The tried and true. Now to the WTFs, Adrian. I want to start here with one of our guys, Tigre here, Diego Lainez, player who, just asking why here. Youngster, obviously, someone we've known has been on the selección for forever now, even though he's so young. But he's a player that doesn't see many minutes at Tigres, isn't a first choice, hasn't been, since he arrived. He's had moments of, being el factor, but he has never really lived up to it. Why is he consistently being called up, and why is he being called up now?
That is a question, my friend. That is the actual question. I cannot find an answer for this. As you mentioned, he is not the first choice for Tigres on their starting 11, even though he started today, right? But if you look at the entire tournament, excluding some of the matches that he missed due to injuries, which I think there weren't that many, he hasn't been a constant feature for Tigres that much in this season. On top of that, he's not even crucial in any aspect for Tigres. He's not crucial on the attacking front, and he's not necessarily a angular piece for the defense, right? So I really don't get it. I don't understand it. Is this El Vasco trying to find those players who will be content with just being a rotational or part of the squad and just play whenever they need to, or is this a move from Doña Fede and sus secuaces to bring players who are known to be popular with the Mexican fandom, right? Because we all know that a lot of young people specifically love Diego Lainez. He is like a rock star for Mexico in that specific sense. I mean, you see it with Tigres everywhere they go. He's one of the most sought after players from the opposition fans and whatnot. Even here in the States, he's one of the most sought after players from the squad. So is this just a pure marketing move, or is he Vasco Aguirre's pet? Right? That's the question.
The America effect, bro.
I guess so.
Him up. No, but I agree with you. That's the question. Similar question as to what we were discussing with the Cruz Azul players and the prices. Will he play this window?
Yeah,
not really sure. But if you're basing it off of form, shouldn't even deserve a call.
Exactly. That's the biggest difference. Yeah, the Cruz Azul players are playing exceptionally well, and all of them are constantly featured for Cruz Azul. Diego Lainez is it.
Someone else that is a WTF here, and I find it funny if you guys were looking at our agenda here, you'd see why I find it funny. When we prep up these videos, we like to take our notes in here. All we have here for this next player is WTF and his name. No notes. Speaks for itself.
Exactly.
Charlie Rodriguez, the player that had a horrible previous camp, the player who we question, what is Vasco seeing in him. The player who I guess he's having a decent tournament in Liga MX. If you look and go by assists, right? We know he's one of the top assists of La Liga this season. I think it's like the fourth or fifth place on that list. But a very average Charlie Rodriguez who has time and time and again been called up and not lived up to the hype.
Listen, I had a full rant on Charlie Rodriguez. I got shut down on Instagram and other social medias because they thought it was violent, and it was, right. In the sense that I was pissed to the fact that he's continued to get called up, and I don't understand why. I just don't. We're gonna see another average, mediocre display from Charlie Rodriguez, and he's gonna get called up once again, and once again, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. It isn't because Mexico doesn't have players for that specific position, because they do. Mexico has a somewhat decent size pool of central attacking midfielders. I just don't get how this guy keeps on showing up. He will always be the same for Mexico. A disastrous 2022. He was in Copa America, right? I think he got called up for Copa America.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
A horrendous Copa America as well. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I will never will get it. And yeah, I'm done with Charlie Rodriguez, man. It's okay. Call them up. I don't care.
Is he, Adrian, one that is riding that blue Cruz Azul wave and kind of joining that hype, where all the other Cruz Azul players that are called up to the selección this window, I think, are deservedly so? Is he the one that's not?
I think based on previous history with Mexico, he doesn't deserve to get called up again. If we only look at form,
so not have to do with Cruz Azul, really just based off his Mexico.
Yeah, because I agree with you. I think he's having a decent, short of good season with Cruz Azul. Mm-hmm. He has proven to be a very important piece for Anselmi, but he's definitely enjoying the wave of Cruz Azul being the hot team in Mexico, right?
Right.
And just reaping all the benefits of it, right?
Yeah.
I don't see how can anyone justify his name on any list for Mexico if you look at the statistics, the numbers, and just the quality of display that he has had for Mexico over the last 4 years. I don't see it.
There you go. The real WTF
exactly.
of this roster announcement from Vasco Aguirre. Mm-hmm. Adrian, should be an interesting Nations League matchup here for Mexico. Yes. Interesting to see if Mexico can ride that wave of having recently beat their arch rivals 2-0 in Guadalajara. Mexico, who's going to try to wrap up the year flying high here. As we wrap up this episode, brother, what can listeners find us do?
They can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok. We post memes, latest news, and shorts of our episodes.
Yeah, so follow us in preferred social media platform of choice and let us know in the comments below what are your thoughts on this Mexico roster. Do you think Vasco Aguirre got some stuff right, got some stuff wrong, mixed bag? Are you in the same boat as Adrian thinking, well, not just Adrian, all of us here, most of us Mexico fans thinking that Charlie Rodriguez does not deserve to be called up? Obviously he's been having a decent season, but, Mexico, it's another story. Who do you think was left out unfairly? Who do you think should have been called up? Who do you think shouldn't have been? Let us know below, definitely. Sticking with PPG as we get into these, get closer to this matchup and have our preview episode. Definitely stick it here with us. Adrian, man, another good episode. See you in the next one, brother.
Take it easy. Deuce.